Welcome you all. Good morning. I'm Miriam Vale. I'm the curator from the FECAP college. I teach also in our undergraduation course here, and I'm a coordinator of the qualification program for export that we are going to develop along with Apex next year. Welcome you to start our professional journey. Fernanda Dantas invited me. She's the manager of international relations for the Brazilian Book Chamber, and also from Brazilian Publisher. That is a partnership about the Brazilian Book Chamber, and also the Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, Apex Brazil. I'd like to welcome you all and saying that today we have the beginning of these webinars and all the agenda of the first virtual Bienal, who will be developed with this partnership from CBL and Apex. The subject of today's talk is digital transformation challenges for the publishing market post-pandemic. All the participation are welcome. Send your questions for us to have an interactive roundtable along with you. And I'd like to introduce our two guests. We have Alexandre Martins Fontes that graduated architecture. He works in the book market for more than 30 years from the WMF, and also the Martins Fontes bookshop in Fábio Dantas. He's an entrepreneur. He has 20 years experience engaged in distinct roles, consistent broader view of consistent strategical drive and innovation culture. Before starting, I have some questions. I'd like you to introduce yourselves. Alexandre, can you go ahead and introduce our discussion on digital transformation? Good morning. I'd like first of all to thank for the invitation from CBL and Apex Brazil. It's very nice to talk about books for the Martins Fontes for the it's a publishing house and a book shop here in São Paulo. We have been in the market for 60 years. The company founded by my father and his brothers, and I have the privilege of moving forward their jobs. And again, I'm very happy to be here with you. Fabio, go ahead. Good morning. Thank you, media. Good morning, Alexandre. I'd like to thank, first of all, this invitation from CBL and Apex. It's such a pleasure to share the history and analogy for this present in a better future. And it's a pleasure to be here also with Miriam, Alexandre, and there's a round table to talk a little bit about the market, digital transformation, vision of the future, the impacts of this 2020 in what for the years to come. And I'm pretty sure this roundtable will be very nice and will clarify and bring many insights for the ones that will follow us. Yes, that's for sure. Thank you for the introductions. Alexandre, as you said, you have a broad experience on the book chain because you are a publishing house and also bookshop. How do you face this pandemic time? Miriam, first of all, there are just few companies and professionals that have this experience that I have of being on the two sides of the counter as a publishing house and also as a book seller. We are facing a very special problem, a complicated moment of pandemics, a moment that affected more directly the physical bookshops, the ones that don't have online presence. That's why it's so important to this talk. We have two bookshops. I'm the boss of these two. I'm ahead of these two. And for some years, maybe 30 years, 13 years ago, we started to do a strong online presence task, and we'll detail this further. Despite knowing the importance of the physical bookshops and work hard to promote that all over Brazil, I repeat a sentence of Bill Games that a city that has no book shop cannot be considered a city. Brazil faces a crisis that affects the physical bookshops. I work hard to promote them, but I understand, and I said that because the physical bookshop is fundamental. This is it's the main facade of the book market, but the physical bookshop cannot be away from the new technologies and the new opportunities these new technologies will provide, the online sales, the marketplace. So I think that we're going to discuss this a lot during this roundtable. As a summary, pandemic affected on the physical bookshops without an online presence. The publishing market as a whole was less affected than what we imagined at the beginning of the pandemic, is because we have two phenomena. One, the people, once they stayed at home, not only Brazil, all over the world, they started to consume, to buy more books, but at the first time, essentially through internet. So the publishing houses didn't suffer as much as the booksellers that have no online presence. I think this is the moment for us to reflect, to rethink as a society as a whole, but particularly from these booksellers that do an incredible job of providing a space for people to gather, offer a coffee and auditorium. We are social animals. We have to get together. The physical bookshops offer these to people, but it's pretty clear for all of us that it's not it's not enough. They should invest on an online presence as well. Yes, that's all. I was reading about Martins Fontes, and the internet sales grew a lot during the pandemic. That made the difference for us at the end of the days and by the end of the year as well. Sorry for interrupting you. When I got the news that I had to shut down our doors, I was concerned because we live from books, but I was also concerned with the publishing houses as well. If the bookshops will shut down, to whom are we going to sell? So that was a very a moment of a pressure in our internal talks. If this situation we go from April onwards, we'll have problems. We are in December and we are facing that situation. So why that situation was not as bad as I imagined behind it in March? Because we have invested on our online sales. We sold 4 times more during this period if we take those whole period. So in some months we sold fourfold more sales that Telecom said the physical sales. So we didn't suffer as much because at the same way people started to buy online and the publishing houses starts to work with the online book shops. Didn't ameliorate the situation of the physical bookshops without online presence. And important data, what is clear for us, booksellers and publishing houses, is that the physical bookshops, they are like the facade of the publishing market. If the sale was not as bad as what we thought at the beginning, the book releases had a very bad performance. So the publishing houses got conscious of the importance of the physical book shops to show the new releases. The online performs very well if you already know what's going to buy. But if you want to know a new book, you should go to a physical bookshop. That's very clear for the market. That's why we are campaigning, advocating to promote the physical bookshops because it's very important for the whole market. I'm speaking about the physical bookshop, but this talk is about technology. And we have no doubt these new technologies offer great opportunities for all of us. If we hadn't invest on our online sales for 13 years ago, we would face a very bad situation today. And Fabio, I'd like to talk to you about innovation. That's your main field, and you're living this closer. And the worker market is so traditional. So there are these contacts with the books are very important with the book releases and the physical bookshops. We're going to talk about this question about physical and digital. We're going to discuss that. These happen in a very slow pace from the physical to digital, but the pandemic accelerated that. So what's your vision about the future of these? Well, Miriam, the vision of innovation, we are all innovative beings, so to say. These are of innovation during our pathway where you design a house and then the teachers and the triangle like a roof when the teacher asks you to draw. Niemeyer and Huyotaka, they made some circle, for houses, and at every transformation moment we call that, and this this reappears, reignites within the persons. I was very happy of listening to what Alexandre said. If he had an expectation that from April will kill us for to December, we are in a good situation because the human being is innovative, and we have in our DNA to renew, to renovate. So we put that aside to fit in the establishment for some time. Some the evolution it's made not only by the strongest ones, but by the ones that adapt themselves. So there is some positive sides on situation like this is to bring back this innovative side, try to engage and see some way out of these problems. It wouldn't be different for the book market and the publishing market and the booksellers because it's a matter of surviving, and there are some way outs and way outs that were on the table for a while. We are facing this book trends changes and on new generations, even the old generations, we have new tools, safer payment tools, payment on the internet is considered safe and provide almost no friction experience when we take a ride on Uber, Cabify. You don't touch your wallet. You press a button, the person comes, and you go to order the place. So you have an experience aside the traffic of São Paulo. You have a Zen experience. We see this in other markets, and these will reflect in purchase behavior, so to say, of our masses. And will come to all the markets. When the pandemic, it's a kind of is pushing this movement because people are facing some restrictions. There are restrictions from the WHOs, from the government's opening times, but the demand still there. The person is willing to buy a fruit, to read a book, need to ask food from a restaurant. So the market adapted itself and very fast. The vision is that pandemic will leave some wounds and will leave some irreversible wounds as humanity. We passed by some lockdown moments, pandemics, but the ones that lived in Europe faced two great wars. And there were these reasoning that saving food and so on, and what we see in the future, things came to stay. The customer has a journey. His alarm clock will beep according to the beep. The shower, you take the song with news. What kind of news he wants to receive in his or her first 10 minutes. We have the smart homes with all these technologies that provides the almost organic interaction with your house. And from that moment on, you can preheat your oven for you to eat your bread, your coffee maker while you are taking a shower. This customer journey are much more complex, and digital interface that are present in much more touch points of these consumer during the whole day. It would be different for the to buy a book. So the possibility of having the payment means use the tools that the online search, online game, the people evaluate books. These will be a part of this market, and these what will not change is the experience of reading a book. This is a single experience. You can buy a from a market, go to the corner, you can order best fruit, or you can ask an expert but your experience of eating a fruit is the same experience. But for the physical book experience, it will not change. The order entertainment after the book, there came the radio, TV. We have TV streaming, the publishing market is fostering dreams and so on. It touches our brain, different areas of our um, other place when we watch a movie, when we hear an audiobook, or when you hear a song, when I listen to a song, when I read a paper, the level of the absorption and the brain waves are very different when you read a digital book and there is no replacement for that. So at this point, the market will not change, but the market will get the benefit of all other changes that we're discussing here. The process of choice, the process of purchase, the delivery process, the assessment process. These are changing and becoming more digital with a digital influence, not different from our other markets. The book market will get some benefits from that. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to continue from what you said as the Alexandre's perception on the actions that you took from the last 13 years, not from today's, from it was not because of the pandemics. You took actions before I'd like to know the actions that the you as a bookseller and the book publishers, and if the Brazilian market is prepared for this digital world. I was remember some experiences that we change how we search things on the market. And sometimes I had the experience of reading some sample chapters from books, everything digital. If you have considered that, how you see this, the physical maybe will never die because of the releases, and how you're dealing with these new worlds of samples, so to say. Miriam, first of all, for all the ones, I believe in this model of the physical bookshop. I'm investing in our bookshops. I still invest. I have some partners that is still invest, are opening new shops. I believe in this pathway when just a little bit before the first comment, I go to your bookshops. I'm very happy to be there, and I'm very happy of living. And for my own joy, I've hearing this for many times, and curiously, I said I went to your website. We are selling. People are buying on the website, but nothing compares to the experience of being in a physical bookshop, meeting people, talking, drinking a coffee, talking to an author. This experience, there is no comparison. First of all, I believe completely in the physical bookshop as I believe in the physical books. And I will speak, and I will tell a story. I'm a publisher, and publisher many times deal with the books on the digital. The author works on Word. The book prover will use the computer. The designer will use the InDesign or Photoshop, and the publisher will follow through his computer, his iPad. So many times we, some months or years, you approve the cover, the design, the text digitally. From the moment that the physical printed on paper arrive at the publishing house, it's always kind of a party, you know. If you deal with a book for years digitally, it's impressive how the physical book brings an emotion. It's like to see your son, your daughter on the screen, on ultrasound. It's a boy, it's a girl, has two legs, two arms, everything is okay, is healthy. But when you hold in your arms, it's another emotion. So I also believe in the physical book. It's not by chance that after several years after the arrival of the digital books, it represents less than 5% of the sales. 95% of the book sales in Brazil are physical. So I believe in the physical. I believe in the bookshops as a space of entertainment, space of a place for people to get together. But it's an error that we cannot do. It's to give our backs to technology. And I would say that internet, particularly, is a technology that came to enrich the publishing marketing. Nowadays, it is much easier for people to reach what is. Take what is happening here. We are using technology to talk to people. Some years ago, it didn't happen. And some months ago, I wouldn't explore the way we are exploring after the pandemic. Some 20 years ago, I remember the publishing house, American publishing house, specialized in architecture books in its catalog, book catalog. They published a text that after they have their published books online, their sales increased tenfold. And why did they say that 10 years, 20 years ago? Because it was much easier for them to get to direct to the customer before the internet. Before the internet, they had to rely on the physical bookshop. So if they didn't have, the people wouldn't know that that book existed. So nowadays, publishing house, bookshop cannot cannot not have online presence, social media for for the one that don't know, or the one that know, the marketplace is a revolution as we can find the book and buy it. A bookshop cannot be away from the marketplace. Once more, I believe the book is fundamental. Nowadays, I live from selling books, and I hope to sell physical books for many years. But at the same time, I believe that as a publisher and as a bookseller, I cannot give up these new technologies. Thank God that these exist. They are democratic, so people can have access to the information the way they didn't have before. So I'm not among these people that make from the online sales or new technologies as like a demon, so to say. And what I recommend, and I've been recommended for several years for all my partners, the bookshop cannot be, it cannot not invest of having online arm, social media, marketplace, online sales, and so on. I'm repeating a little bit here, but this is the subject of our talk, and it's very important to remark it. I'm not amongst the ones that the physical books is going to die. I'm not amongst the ones that believe that the physical bookshops will disappear. On the contrary, I'm sure, and let me say a little bit about that. What we are receiving from testimonials of love messages like I'm eager to go back to the physical book shops. So I believe I know how important this is in our life. You know, Fabio knows the importance of get together to talk, and the physical bookshop provides that. And that's the point, that they cannot offer only that. That's my point. Well, I remembered a book that I co-authored with other writers. We did everything online. We approved the art, and we said to the publisher the emotion of releasing this book. We had no words for that. The book release that we did on a Congress of Business Administration was something very pleasant of sharing that with other people. It was a Brazilian Congress that we had, the Liberdade neighborhood here in São Paulo. It was marvelous. These things will not have anymore, and these will last forever. It's complex what we are facing, we're living, but this is a book from Martins Fontes, the more beautiful legends of mythology, and nothing will replace it. But I will take this talk from physical and online books. And like you, Fabio, to talk a little bit about this subject. It's not about competence between online and physical. I'd like you to talk about not only ebook but also audiobook. How do you see them? Do you think they are competitors, or they go together? A book that I wrote is to support this business, but we opted to made it on a physical format, but it also has its ebook version. There are some types that are preferred on ebooks. well, there is a market for these three medias that you mentioned. In the future, there will be order types with video book. Uh, we maybe other content relationship will arrive in the future, but there will be markets for all of them. I've mentioned that when you open a book, when you smell the smell of the sheets, the human being, we live in a digital world, of course, but we are a social beings and we need to touch it. The physical, it make it real history and the capture of the content. The whole content is all done through digital tools. Of course, there are some people that write manually, but of course they are uh, converted on convert on computer software, but the proof of a book didn't go as the Hemingway's one handwritten. What I believe, what we need to understand are the experiences that each one of these vehicles will provide. For example, we can have a subject that I look for the opinion and knowledge through a podcast, through an audiobook, because I will play on my radio while I'm driving, or a book when I will have a frenetic that will have digital will help me. If I will go to the page X and consulted. So there will be a strong market for all the media, and I believe that other media will arrive soon, and we don't know how to work with them, but no one of them, and I mentioned some Cheryl Waller. The entertaining was only through the books. The stories were told through books. The radio arrived. They didn't kill the book, the TV as well. On the contrary, the book grows. I see the digital ways of as a democratization tool, but they are not tools that will replace the experience. The experience of the physical book is single, is unique, it's valid, still valid, and it's transforming. I have a son, 10 years old, and he knew how to unblock my iPad when he was 1 year old. These magical fingers to access and to use the digital world, but he doesn't read stories through ebooks. He has more than 150 books in his room, and every single night before going to sleep, he has a book on his night table, and he calms also and go to his environment. He transforms himself, travels, calm down, and so this experience will not be replaced by other media. So I see as a complementary products from the same market, the publishing market. I see different medias. The market should be attentive, should be there are public for all of them. So I've talked to Alexandre before. I think it's nice for him to talk about the audiobook, for example, biography narrated by the person himself or herself. It's very nice, but it doesn't doesn't make your imagination to fly as the physical book. Every single media brings a different experience, and there is space for all of them. And what we do more and more, we share knowledge, we provide opportunities for alone, regardless of being the online, physical. There are spaces for growing of the publisher house and for the book market. As Alexandre said, a city without a bookshop, it's not a city. He took the sentence from one. We have two Martins Fontes in São Paulo and order bookshops. And we are lucky of having these spaces to go there and have this experience, because the other people cannot provide, cannot leave these experiences. So there is room for this expense. But to go to the bookshop, it's not all an act of buying; it's an experience. So the customers not only want to have products; they want to have experiences. So online purchase, delivery, audiobook, and everything, we open the opportunities of the experiences the customer want to have at that moment. So I see in a very good way the growing of these order markets all over the world. I think you have described the nights here in my house. I have another that doesn't go to sleep without reading a book, and it's always an experience when the physical books arrives here. She loves the physical books. She doesn't read ebooks. She doesn't hear all the books. They are not competitors, but they are complementary products. And Alexandre, I'd like you to talk about ebook, audiobook, the physical books. If it goes for one customer, and Juliana from Fontanari, with pandemics, are people reading more or listening to more audiobooks? What's your opinion about that? Thank you for that question. I'm very happy to say that at least the people around me now, but I'm reading on newspapers as well. People are reading more during the pandemic. I have friends that are saying that I never had read so much as now. My son is reading a lot. It's an astonishing quantity of books in a good sense. So the first information, people are reading more, and that's very good for the industry as a whole. It's good for the country. It's good for the Brazilian society. The more we read, the better. I'd like to tell two personal experiences of me during the pandemic. But before that, I'd like to say the following. Now, today, on our publishing house, it's very rare to not have a book that we don't publish in the three formats. Audiobook, it's an exception. But the more commercial books that we publish, they are published on the hard copies that are most of our sales, but necessarily we release the product on an ebook format, and the more commercial the ones, we are doing some audiobooks edition. The Witcher, it's a series that has a good sales adapted to Netflix. You can buy on the three formats: ebook, audiobook, and also the hard copy. But my personal experience, just at the beginning of the pandemic in March here in Brazil, when I was at home with my wife reading a lot, I decided to read the Woody Allen's autobiography that was not released in Brazil, was released in Brazil some weeks ago by the global publishing house, and I've decided to buy the ebook from the American edition. I downloaded it and I read along with my wife the ebook because I was interested. I was in a hurry to know that book. Now, at this precise moment, I'm listening on audiobook. And Fábio mentioned very briefly that I'm hearing the autobiography from Obama. I love Obama and I admire him as a person, and it is a book that was released in Brazil and the United States. By chance, I bought the two editions in Portuguese and English. Which one are you going to read? We decided to download and to hear Obama reading his own book, and that's the privilege to listen to the author himself. uh, it's a privilege, something that's very personal. We start to listen to the book. I'll give some of them. The book has 701 pages, and the English edition it has 29 hours uh, uh, read by Obama, and we have established that we are going to listen 1.5 hours every single day. That will give 19 days listening to Obama reading his own book. This is an experience. We are loving that. That's an extraordinary experience. And me, as a publisher, as a bookseller, I don't see contradictions. It's a way for you to get closer to this literary production. In that case, I've opted. I've chosen because of the privilege of listening to Obama himself reading his own book. These are experiences that fulfilling experience, that these are the new technologies that allow us to have them. As you uh, I prefer as well the hard copies. I read much more the hard copy versions, taking what's going on in the Brazilian market. 95% of the people that read books in the traditional way, the hard copy, the printed, 95% of the Brazilian book market is from hard copies, but these other technologies are very interesting and fulfilling and democratize even more this universe. The main challenge that we have as a book as a country is to make the books to reach the hands of people, that the marketing to grow, that the book to be more inexpensive, to have more um, numbers published, and that's why I'm against these proposals of to eliminate this tax deduction, and this will make the books to be more expensive, and the book shops will face more difficulties, to hard times to survive. We need just the opposite, the book to be more inexpensive, to be more democratic, more people have access, more people go to the bookshops. This is our main challenge. And once more, the technologies are here to democratize even more their access to books, and I support completely every initiative that make the books to go to people. Thank you. My experience during the pandemic, I started to read books that I've bought, these mythology books, and I'm working from home from March. I'm reading much more than I used to read before. We have only 9 minutes left. It was, if you want to send more questions here through the chat, go ahead. I'd like to ask Fabio, what do you think the business model the bookshops will have from now on, from publishing houses and bookshops? Fabio, the bookshop will not be a book shop only. The places we go, there will be places that provide experiences. If you don't see your bookshop or your business model as a place that will provide an experience for your customer, you're destined to not generate a positive experience, and fewer people will go to that place. Before, we used to go to places to buy things. Now things come to us. We don't need to leave house to buy things. And what about the experience? I'm not only talking about books, everything. I will take the example of Apple Store. It's not a cell phone or computer store. It's a store where you feel you have an experience. The bookshops, they have the cafe, coffee places. It's a place for debates, storytelling. So invest on an experience of knowledge, release your imagination of a rest experience. So these it'll be even stronger. The sales will grow up through the virtual media, not only in the physical shop. The business model, it's very important for the bookshops, the publishing houses to invest, to have an online presence through a marketplace or a store, through social media communities, and to feed these channels that are for sure that are opinion makers to be away. It's not an option. So it's the same thing. You did everything digitally when you publish the book in hard copy. It's such an emotion. So this physical bookshop, it's the place you make this whole story, digital story, to happen. And nowadays they deliver the experience much more than the product in itself. So I believe that if you have a business where you're a physical platform, it's different experience provider, and you have an opportunity of doing physical and online sales to support your business. That's what makes sense for all these places, and that's not only goes for books. It goes for food markets. If you live in São Paulo, you have the Italian supermarket that provide a different experience of a purchase. Since the end of the 80s, you can see here in my background, there is no more LPs, but these LPs arrive at your house. So nowadays you have your streams of Spotify, Deezer, Tidal, thousands of platforms where you can listen music, but these LPs are selling a lot. So the product and the channel are different things. The product book will survive, will open space for other products. The channel will survive, but the channel will be complementary to the strategy of sales, digital sales. So go hand in hand. It's fundamental for the survival of people that think on these business models. Alexandre, we have a question to you for Mallory. What's your suggestion for the independent writer to reach the main publishing houses and the bookshops? And what are the tips that you give for the digital transformation for the small publisher houses? Well, it's a little bit what we have already said in relation to the second questions. The publishing houses, they should be closer to the final customer, and they should be closer to the bookshops. It's not an easy task, but that's the challenge, to make you to show your books, to be present on social media, and work for your book to be inside all the digital and physical bookshops. The author, the main tip that I give is to write, because this is the result of the process of writing that will make the publishing house got interested on publishing. People have such a hurry of publishing, and they don't do the most important part, that is to write books, to produce. But I like to finish here. I like to read excerpt from Tati Bernardes has published a very beautiful text talking about the importance of the book. I would finish saying like this: regardless of the format, audio book, e-book, printed book, the publishing houses, the bookshops will survive if there is a market, and the market are all of us buying books, reading books. So my main tip and my recommendation that Tato Bernardes said beautifully, it's let's read, let's give books as gifts. So I will read briefly here, and she finishes her text like this: today, tomorrow, and this Christmas, give books. By the next year, give books. If the person order 5 books, if the person doesn't want it, don't give up people that say don't give up the books. Buy books, give books, and above all, read a lot of books. Netflix, it's not facing crisis. Let's put Netflix online. Let's save our biggest friends. No one releases the handles only to hold a book only. Yes, and some Christmas I've been giving books to people. Now we'll have our next roundtables on the 9 and 10. It's book club and digital influencer, their roles. It was such a pleasure to stay here with you, Flavio and Alexandre, during this 1 hour. Yes, the pleasure was mine. Thank you very much. Buy books, give books, listen to books.